As we get to the end of this very long election campaign, it's almost impossible to say anything except what a dull campaign it's been, and yet at the same time, what a most surprising number of events it has thrown up. And I count about 6 or 7. First of all, the announcement in the rain on May the 22nd, the election under a cloud, which almost defines the entire thing, doesn't it? And it's not clear why Rishi chose to go to the electorate at that particular point, and why no one gave him an umbrella. It was like a very poor rendition of Gene Kelly's song, and whinging in the rain. And it was a miserable foretaste or forecast of what was to come. Was he pushed into this because he'd been told by Sir Graham Brady that there were too many letters waiting in the 1922 letterbox that were poised to call a vote of confidence? Or was it that he realised the Rwanda project, which he pinned so much hope on, was going to fail absolutely? Then there was Ed Davies' paddleboard incident where he falled off, where it was initially seen as a gaffe, bringing much-needed visibility to the Liberal Democrat leader after his association with the postmasters and the postmistresses Horizon issue, after he was vilified and fingered for not doing anything of substance to help and not really taking responsibility. On May the 28th, he launched into the water as in the first of a series of gimmicks to try to rehabilitate himself and to draw attention to the Lib Dems, helping the Lib Dems slightly in the polls, but the Lib Dem campaign of targeting winnable seats and to encourage electors to target their own election, to target their own vote, to maximum effect. Yeah, a good thing. Diane Abbott's candidacy decision on May the 31st, all a bit late, and it shows another side of Keir Starmer, which is not particularly flattering. And the suspending Diane Abbott's candidacy was one step too far. She should never have been left on the backbenches, particularly after the Tory Heskers misadventure and misjudged racism and misogyny. It's just up there with Dan Wootton, and yet the Conservative Party was still taking money from him, I suppose by reinstalling Diane Abbott, which is what should have been done, he has minimised long-term damage, refocused on on carrying his Ming vase across the floor, and turning the attention back onto Conservative mistakes. Nigel Farage's return is probably the most important single event, I think, in the 6 weeks of the election campaign. It reinvigorated the right-wing base. The party's polling increased. He replaced Richard Tice, the privileged and the moneyed voice of Reform UK, but it's not enough. He lacked and lacks the charisma of Farage, even though he seems sort of winsome and cute. Don't be misled. And I think his grandfather would be horrified by what his grandson has been doing in his name and with his money. But there we are. I'm sure that there's more to come out of Godmersham Park than one of Jane Austen's novels and Richard Tice. But let's wait and see. The D-Day commemoration blunder on June the 6th, so 3 days after Nigel Farage's return, was fodder for Farage. The premature departure from the commemorations, widely criticised and portrayed as disrespectful. But this incident damaged Rishi Sunak personally, and I don't think he's been able to recover from it, particularly among older voters, and it reinforces the perception of a faltering campaign and a failing administration. And this is then reinforced by the betting scandal which emerged barely a week later, on June the 12th, with Craig Williams and Laura Saunders and the police officer and the Spads, who were all in it together. And although there was a Labour man who was also fingered for betting, Keir Starmer made it quite clear that he was going to take control and act decisively. And the scandal, because of Rishi Sunak's delay, the scandal occupied media space for day after day after day, that could have been used to promote campaign policies, thereby representing a significant missed opportunity, a misstep again by Rishi Sunak, demonstrating that he doesn't have the political credibility to lead a party through a general election campaign. And this again is a judgment about the failure in modern politics to leave new MPs on the back benches for 5 years to adjust, to learn how to manage in the political atmosphere and the dark arts that dominate Westminster. To be elevated into a ministerial career too early is to lead individuals into the lapland of stupidity. Rishi Sunak was like a goat dragged into the slaughterhouse. As for the Reform UK defections and the controversies and the racist comments by a Reform activist, Andrew Parker, and Farage's controversial statements on Ukraine, all of that is, despite all of that, the party has maintained its polling position, and the defections and the controversies may have highlighted the party's volatility, but they have not significantly dented its appeal to disenchanted right-wing voters, who I think Farage could have stood on his hand and pulled down his underpants. He could have stood on his head and pulled down his underpants and no one would have blinked. As for the Actigate racism row with Andrew Parker, the specifics still remain unclear, and the racism scandal, which typically has a profound negative effect and erodes trust and credibility, providing for Andrew Parker himself a significant backlash and removing his CV from the Mandy's website, it complicates the party's campaign efforts and the party's image. But I think the impact of the Andrew Parker gate will be felt much later on, after the general election, than in the process of the general election, because of Farage's very skilled use of fake news. Without any evidence, he maintained this man was a plant. No evidence at all. And quite extraordinary. And then, of course, there was the picture of Putin descending "I love Nigel" and Farage failing. Actually, as we're saying so much about Farage, I think I should put up my song of Farage, because I think Farage is a superb performer. But frankly, I see him more of a Max Miller or one of those post-war or even war comedians singing winsome songs in the footlights. And so I did a little bit of animation at the beginning of the campaign. I'm going to play it here because I think as we go into election day, we need a little bit of music to keep us going. So thank you very much.
He snubbed Nick Robinson. He's not snubbing me. Here he is, Nigel Farage, fresh from the bus, fresh from attacks, in the music hall, in front of a bank. No Cockney slang, please. Barclays?
The Ritz I never sigh for, the Carlton they can keep. There's only one place that I know, and that is where I sleep. Underneath the arches I dream my dreams away. Underneath the arches on cobblestones I lay. Every night you'll find me tired out and worn, happy when the daylight comes creeping, heralding the dawn, sleeping when it's raining, and sleeping when it's fine. I hear the trains rattling above. Pavement is my pillow, no matter where I stray. Underneath the arches I dream my dreams away. Underneath the arches I dream my dreams away. Underneath the arches on cobblestones I lay. Every night you'll find me tired and worn, happy when the daylight comes creeping, heralding the dawn, sleeping when it's raining, and sleeping when it's fine. Ba-ba-dee-ba-ba-dee-ba. I hear the trains rattling above. Pavement is my pillow, no matter where I stray. Underneath the arches I dream my dreams away.
And there we are, off to vote today, or to soil our ballot papers. I don't know what you plan to do. I don't know what choice of local candidate you've got. Do remember it's the local candidate you're voting for, even if the national campaign and the national parties seem so important. It's your local candidate who is going to represent you over the next 5 years.